Hello there, my name is Razzo and I want to welcome you to my channel. I'm the kind of guy that loves making characters almost as much as I enjoy playing D&D. In this video series, I plan to share some of my favorite builds that I have stored away. I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. Some arcane spellcasters specialize in spells that permit them to engage in combat from afar. This character, by contrast, prefers to focus on spells for self-preservation. This allows them to wade into the fray alongside their weapon-wielding companions, close enough to read the fear in their opponent's eyes. Today, I'm going to use the resources in D&D Beyond to create the Battle Mage. Now that I have the browser open, let's get to work. We're going to start by picking our race. There's a few options. I'm personally going with Eldritch from Monsters of the Multiverse. A couple other options would be the Shadar-kai or the Astral Elf. And the reason is these guys have phase step, which I think fits really cool with what we're trying to do. For phase step, as a bonus action, you can magically teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Now, I like to use the summer version of this because immediately after we use our phase step, each creature of my choice within 5 feet takes fire damage equal to our proficiency bonus. That means we can jump into combat immediately as a bonus action, soften up the enemies. The Shadar-kai, on the other hand, they have an ability where they take reduced damage when they jump in. Really, you can't go wrong with any race in this build. I just like phase step. Let's go ahead and make it official by selecting summer. We also have to come down here and we have to pick a stat for our saving throw. We're going to go ahead and pick intelligence. We don't have a great intelligence score, but we will be pumping it later. So out of the options that we have, it's our best one. For trance, we get to pick a weapon or a tool. Each time we take a long rest and be proficient with it. I like to pick up thieves tools. They're just really awesome to have, especially if no one in your group has it. But feel free to pick whatever you want here. This is a very useful tool if you pick up something that you aren't able to use, or in one campaign we ran, our rogue had to take a couple of days off, and so our Astral Elf, who has the same trance ability, he picked up thieves tools to pick up while that rogue was off. Really neat feature there. Moving right along, we're going to go to our ability scores. For generation method, we are going to pick the point buy. We're going to go with a 14 strength, a 10 dex, a 15 constitution, a 14 int, a 10 wisdom, and an 8 charisma. For our racial ability score increases, we are going to pick a +2 and a +1. For the +1, we're going to go with constitution. That puts us at a 16, and for our +2, we're going to put it in strength to give us another 16. Our main stats for this build are strength, so we can wear heavy armor, as well as attack with melee weapons. We also like a good constitution because we like to maintain concentration, and we also like to have big, beefy hit points. We're also going to need at least a 13 intelligence to multiclass. May as well start with a 14, and eventually, as we get more levels, way on down the road, we're going to bump that intelligence up higher. But it's not horribly important with the way we pick our spells. Moving right along, we're going to pick our background. For this build, we are going to go with Sage. This gives us proficiency in Arcana and History, and gives you some more languages. You have a boatload of languages to pick from. That's pretty campaign specific, so pick whatever you want. With that out the way, we can start with our class, and at level 1, we are going to pick Fighter. Fighter gives us some nice proficiencies. Some of those are Strength, and most importantly, Constitution saving throws. It'll also give us all armor and shields, as well as pretty much every weapon we can think of. For these skills, I'm going to go with Acrobatics and Athletics. This gives us our physical abilities, whereas our background gives us our mental abilities. We also get a fighting style. I like to go with the dueling fighting style, and that's going to give us +2 bonus on damage rolls with a weapon as long as we're wielding it with one hand and no other weapons. This includes if we throw a weapon or even if we're using a shield. We also get the second wind ability, which lets us regain some hit points once per short rest. as a bonus action. At this point, we're pretty much a basic fighter using the heaviest armor we can get, a shield. Although we won't be using the shield for very long, we will pick it up again later down the road. For our weapon, choose any weapon you want. Try to stick with the one-handed weapons as we get the dueling fighting style. The weapon at this point isn't a huge factor. Moving on to level 2, we're going to multiclass with Wizard. This is going to give us some spellcasting. Int is our main spellcasting stat. And this also gives us ritual casting, which ritual casting for a wizard is different than every other class. You can cast a wizard spell with a ritual tag if that spell is in your spell book. You do not need to have it prepared. To my knowledge, every other class has to have the spell prepared to cast the ritual. Now, another neat thing about the wizard is we prepare spells from our spell book, and we can add spells into the spell book as long as the DM is nice enough to give us resources to put them in there. This is going to build our library of spells. Pretty much anything on the wizard spell list is going to be game for us, at least up to a certain level. Now, before we go pick our spells, we need to go over material and somatic components. Certain spells have components to them. They can be verbal, somatic, or material. Verbal means that you have to be able to have your mouth open and say the spell. Somatic components means that you have to make a spellcasting gesture and you have to have a free hand to do this. Material components either require you to get an item out of your spell component pouch or use a spellcasting focus, which means you also have to have a free hand. Now, that free hand for somatic components can be the same free hand for your material components. You can wave your arm around while holding the material component, so at least you only need one free hand. That is why we cannot use a shield if we want to cast something with a somatic or material component for now. Now, if you can get your hands on one of these Rubies of the War Mage, you can turn your simple or martial weapon into a spellcasting focus, at which point you can use your weapon and your shield and just have a nice time. If you can't get your hands on one of these, you're going to have to wait until level 5. Spoiler alert, we're taking Warcaster, and then you'll be able to put your shield back on. Now, the final thing we need to do before picking our spells is go into this optional feature manager and select additional wizard spells. We get to pick 3 cantrips to start. I'm going to go with Chill Touch. It's not great, but it's better than not being in range of something. If we can't throw at it, we can at least try and make an attack roll with our 14 intelligence. The neat thing about this is if you are able to deal damage, the target cannot regain hit points, and if they are an undead, they have disadvantage on attack rolls. It's gonna probably be better for us later on down the road. Not a great option, but it's a decent one. For our next spell, this is going to be one of our bread and butter spells. It's Green Flame Blade. It lets us make a melee attack with our weapon, and if we hit another creature within 5 feet of the target we hit, takes fire damage equal to our intelligence modifier, which at this point is 2. Now, as you see, as we get more levels, this damage increases. For the third cantrip, I like to pick something utility. My big favorites are Mage Hand or Prestidigitation. Really pick your favorite. It's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things, so pick whichever spell you find that you're going to use most often. At this level, we get to pick 6 first level spells to add to our spell book. We are going to start with Shield, which as a reaction, when we take a hit, we can increase our AC by 5, and this lasts until our next turn. It also prevents any damage from the spell called Magic Missile. Our second spell is going to be Silvery Barbs. This is another reaction spell which you take when a creature you see within 60 feet of me succeeds an attack roll, ability check, or a saving throw. You magically distract the triggering creature and turn its momentary uncertainty into encouragement for another creature. The triggering creature must re-roll the d20 and use the lower result. You can then choose a different creature you see within range. You can also choose yourself. The chosen creature has advantage on the next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw it makes within 1 minute. A creature can be empowered by only one of these spells at a time. The other spell we're going to pick is Magic Missile, where we create a bunch of darts and send them to a target or multiple targets, and we deal some force damage. Note that none of the spells we picked here require a saving throw for their full effectiveness. This is why we can get by with a low intelligence. The other spells I like to put into my spell book are any ritual. As I said before, we don't have to have these prepared. They can just sit in our spell book and we have access to them. The ones that I like to pick would be like Alarm, Comprehend Languages, Detect Magic, Find Familiar, and Identify. For the next 2 levels, we are going to pick Fighter. That's going to give us Action Surge, which lets us take an extra action on our turn once per short rest. And then we get to pick our Archetype, which we are going to pick Eldritch Knight. So it'll give us Weapon Bond. This allows us to perform a ritual to bond ourselves to a weapon. Once we have bonded to this weapon, we can't be disarmed from that weapon unless we are incapacitated. If we're on the same plane of existence, we can summon that weapon as a bonus action on our turn, causing it to teleport instantly into our hand. We can have up to 2 bonded weapons. This means that in an emergency situation, if we can't reach our target and we don't want to cast our cantrip at it, we can always toss our weapon at it and then use our bonus action to bring it back to our hand. That also synergizes well with the dueling feature. Just make sure you only have 1 weapon in your hand while you're doing this. For this reason, I would bond with one really good one-handed weapon for melee, and then I would also bond with a second weapon that has the thrown property. We also get some spellcasting. Intelligence is our spellcasting stat. A big thing about this is all of our spells except for a handful have to be from certain schools. These schools are Abjuration and Evocation. Now for the cantrips we learned, we are going to go with Booming Blade. This is similar to Green Flame Blade where we make a melee attack. A creature within 5 feet of us. They're going to take the normal damage, and then if they willingly move 5 feet or more, they take extra thunder damage. You know, the other cantrips we pick, just kind of pick your favorite for now. I think I would personally go with Message or Prestidigitation. For our first level spells, first one we're going to pick up is Absorb Elements. This is another reaction. Basically, whenever we take acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage, we can reduce that damage by half. And then the next time we make a melee attack on our next turn, the target we hit takes an extra 1d6 damage of the triggering type. Another spell we're going to learn is Burning Hands. We can hold out our hands and create a cone of damage, and if they save, they still take half. So yeah, I would like to have that intelligence score higher, but we still get use out of this spell. Although me personally, I'd probably still just stick with saving my spells for my reaction for Shield, Absorb Element, and Silvery Barbs. The third spell we get to pick, and this one can be from any school, is Featherfall. Whenever you're falling, you can use a reaction and, slow your descent so that you don't die from falling damage. And then we're going to move on to our next level. We are going to take Fighter, and that's going to give us a feat. We already discussed. We are going to take Warcaster. This gives us advantage on Constitution saving throws to maintain concentration. We can perform somatic components of spells whenever we have a weapon or a shield in both hands. And whenever a hostile creature's movement provokes an attack or opportunity from us, we can use a reaction to cast a spell. Remember that Booming Blade spell we just picked up? If they try and get away, we can smack them with that, and then they take even more damage when they try and run away from us. We also get to learn an additional spell at this level, and a good one to concentrate on would be Protection from Evil and Good. Until the spell ends, one willing creature you touch is protected from certain types of creatures: aberrations, celestials, elementals, fae, fiend, and undead. The protection grants several benefits. Creatures of those types have disadvantage on attack rolls against the target. The target also can't be charmed, frightened, or possessed by them. If the target is already charmed, frightened, or possessed by such a creature, that creature has advantage on any new saving throw against the relevant effect. While this spell is very situational, it's free to pick up, and it fits within the spell choices that we have to pick. So always nice to have pull out of our back pocket in emergency situations. For the next level, we are going to pick fighter again, and we are going to get extra attack. That means whenever we attack on our turn, we can attack twice. At this point, extra attack should edge out Green Flame Blade for now, but Green Flame Blade will have its uses later. Now for this level, we don't get any more spells. Guess they said extra attack is powerful enough. For our next level, it's actually pretty quick. We're just going to get an ability score increase. We're just going to pump that strength to an 18. Move on to our next level where picking up fighter again. We pick up war magic. Being at 7th level, which is actually 8 for us, when you use your action to cast a cantrip, you can make one weapon attack as a bonus action. Here is where Green Flame Blade and Booming Blade take over again over extra attack. You can use your action to cast that spell, so you get a melee attack, you get the spell's damage, and then as a bonus action, you can make an additional melee attack. We also get to pick up our first 2nd level spell, and I like to pick up Darkness. It's another concentration spell. It's kind of situational. I would like to drop it down whenever we're trying to get away from a situation or trying to get a drop on a situation, or when we're doing something that we're not supposed to be doing and we don't want anybody to see us. Moving right along to our next level, we gain another spell, and this one can be of any school, and so I'm going to pick up Blur. Blur. Your body becomes blurred, shifting, and wavering to all who can see you. For the duration, any creature has disadvantage on attack rolls against you. An attacker is immune to this effect if they don't rely on sight, such as blind sight, or can see through illusions, as with true sight. This is a great concentration spell because it makes us even harder to hit. The other thing we get at this level is another ability score increase, and we're going to pump that strength all the way up to 20. Now moving on to our 10th level, we're going to take a break from fighter, and we're going to go some more wizard levels. At this level, we get to pick up war magic, which gives us arcane deflection. Whenever we would be hit by an attack or fail a saving throw, we can use our reaction to add a +2 bonus to our AC against that attack, or a +4 bonus to that saving throw. Now notice that this is only one attack instead of the whole round like shield. However, it does not use a spell slot. The trade-off is that whenever we use this feature, we can't cast another spell until the end of our next turn other than cantrips. Well, usually we're not casting a whole lot of spells anyways, so I really don't think it's that big of a negative. The other thing we're going to pick up is Tactical Wit, which lets us add our intelligence modifier to our initiative rolls, which we go from 0 to a 2. Not great, but it'll get better as we get more levels. We also get to pick up some more spells, but these are 1st level spells, so there's not a whole lot of extra stuff that it's adding to our build, but I would just pick up more rituals, or really at this point, we may have been adding other spells to our spellbook just because we're a wizard. So really just kind of short your 1st level spells, and next level we're going to add some level 2 spells. And for those spells, we are going to add, because it's always nice to have some more teleportation in case we run out of our phase step. And then I'm also going to add See Invisibility. For the duration, we can see invisible creatures and objects. It's always nice because at this point, they're going to be throwing like invisible stalkers at you or some other things that might be able to be invisible. So this lets you, pop this up, see them, and you don't even have to concentrate on it. Duration's an hour. Some other 2nd level spells you might be able to add are some rituals of augury and gentle repose. Moving right along, we're adding more wizard levels. And this gets us an ability score increase, and we're finally getting around to bumping up that intelligence. We can start maybe making things make saving throws. They're at a 16. A lot of casters are at a 20 right now, but hey, we got that 20 strength. So having a 16 for casting stat isn't the worst thing in the world whenever you can just pummel stuff down. For our next level, we're going to take another level of wizard, and this gets us up to the coveted 3rd level spells. Now for third level spells from here, I would take Fireball, because who doesn't love to blow stuff up? And the other one is a concentration spell known as Haste. This will let us boost up our defense and our offense. Just be careful though. If you lose concentration on it, you are swept by a wave of lethargy, which means that we can't move or take actions until our next turn. But what's really important about this level is we now have access to third level spells on Wizards, so we can add any spell from the Wizard spell list to our spell book if we can get our hands on a scroll or another spell book or something like that. That's the big advantage to going this route instead of your normal Eldritch Knight, because you can add whatever spells you want to your kit. Keep in mind we don't have a whole lot of spell slots like your typical Eldritch Knight, but the options you have far outweigh the normal version of an Eldritch Knight. From here on out, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to finish off with nothing but fire levels. For every ability score increase we take, we're going to bump up intelligence. That's actually going to get us to an intelligence of 20 at level 19. Now for our features that we pick up along the way, Indomitable, which lets us reroll a saving throw that we fail. If we do so, we must use the new roll, and you can't use this feature until you finish a long rest. Later on, we'll be able to do it twice per day. And then we're going to pick up Eldritch Strike at level 15. You learn how to make your weapon strikes undercut a creature's resistance to your spells. Whenever you hit a creature with a weapon attack, the creature has disadvantage on the next saving throw it makes against a spell you cast before the end of your next turn. So you can kind of, set somebody up by hitting them with a weapon and then blowing them up with a spell on your next turn. Or if you have some sort of control spell that you really need to land. We do get another extra attack, which means when we make the attack action on our turn, we can attack 3 times instead of twice. At this point, it's hard to determine whether 3 attacks deals more damage than the Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade. So kind of just play around with it, see what you like better. And then at level 20, we get Arcane Charge. We get the ability to teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space whenever we use our action surge. And you can do it before or after the additional action. So when it comes to teleporting, we can teleport because of our race, we can teleport because of Misty Step, our spell, and we can teleport whenever we action surge. Now for the spells we're going to add to our list, we have to pick spells from Abjuration or Evocation when we're doing this. So some good ones for second level might be Grime's Binding Ice. A burst of cold energy emanates from you in a 30-foot cone. Each creature in that area must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed saving throw, a creature takes 3d8 cold damage and is hindered by ice formations for 1 minute, or until another creature within reach of it uses an action to break away the ice. The creature hindered by the ice has its speed reduced to 0 on a successful saving throw. On a successful saving throw, a creature takes half as much damage and isn't hindered by the ice. The other one I would pick would be Shatter. A sudden loud ringing noise, painfully intense, erupts from a point of your choice within range. Each creature in a 10-foot radius sphere centered on that point must make Constitution saving throw or take thunder damage. For our third level spells, options would be Protection from Energy, which gives us resistance to either acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder. Or if we want some more damage, we can pick up Lightning Bolt. And this is a line, so we have Fireball from Wizard that is a big AoE, whereas this is a big line. So some more tools in our toolkit. This lets us form a line of 100 feet long and 5 foot wide in the direction of our choice, and each creature in the line has to make a dexterity saving throw or take 8d6 lightning damage on a failed saving throw, or half as much on a successful one. Now keep in mind, just because we're getting spells with Fighter doesn't mean we can't keep adding spells to our Wizard spellbook. So keep your eyes peeled for those spell books and scrolls. This way you can add whatever your DM's willing to give you. As a final note, I want to say thanks for checking out my channel. I hope you visit more often. Don't forget to roll a nat 20 on the like and subscribe buttons. And if you want to watch my friends and I play some D&D, check out this playlist. See you next time.